Hi folks, this is a wrench. Keep this in mind, it's going to be part of this upcoming series. Okay, so first of all, this video is in response to a comment by Jordan Berg, who I was talking about some of my experiences and a time when I did a bad thing. I lost my temper and did the bad thing, and I picked a fight. I initiated a fight, and it was with someone who was a better martial artist than me, older and stronger. Very brief event. And I was talking about this guy. I would call him a kid now because I'm much older. Looking back, right? At that age, he'd have been a kid to me, but he's still older than me in real life, probably. So I said, he was a black belt at this martial arts school that I had went to when I was younger and had to discontinue mostly because my parents are like, we ain't spending the money. And then later, I was able to find a way to pay for my own martial arts lessons at Golden Eagle Karate with Sensei Jeff Mack. Anyway, so Jordan Berg, you kind of attacked my integrity by saying, by kind of implying I wasn't there or I was making something up. So let me just clarify. Imagine you are me. I'm 11 years old, and the year is probably around 1980, I would say. Sometime there or afterward. It was a long while ago. But as I entered the building, you have to walk upstairs to enter the building, a short series of steps, and the outer of the building is white. It's got the logo of the school. I'm going to not mention names because I think you got a little offended and angry, and I'm trying to depersonalize this, be courteous and professional. You enter the building, and there's like a bathroom to your left, and then there's a short little hallway, and shoes are on the ground. The shoes have a place for you to place your shoes. You have to take off your shoes when you enter the building. You enter the dojo. You see the dojo in front of you. Beautifully polished wood floors, and although it's polished and shiny, I would say that among the tans, it would be a light tan, and I would say it was almost a pastel color. Okay? Once you enter the dojo, there's like a little framed area where pictures are behind the frame, photographs of past events, and a saying, fall down 7 times, get up 8. You turn a left, and as you're walking, now the dojo floor is on your right, and there's like a seating area and sort of a bamboo frame, and the office is on my left, and I always noted this. It looks like a little stuffed baby crocodile or caiman or something like that, about yay big, which I thought was just the coolest thing, and that's the dojo's office. The secretary who works there is a lady. She's a black belt and works for Nottingham Public School System, I think for Nottingham Junior High, not Nottingham High School. Now, I have to go down the stairs into the basement to enter the men's dressing room. And a funny thing, the heavy bag was in the dressing room. It wasn't up there on the dojo floor. Hardly anybody, I don't think a lot of people were into heavy bag, but I think it's a fantastic tool. They had makiwaras upstairs. And then another distinctive thing about the men's room is the changing room is there was like a little curtained area. Oh, there was also a little bench press with a leg extension attachment, and it looked kind of like a flimsy bench compared to some benches. And there's a little curtained area, and when you walk behind the curtained area, there's, I guess, equipment for the yearly tournament they hold, and there's it looks like an Olympic-style podium, white, made of wood, and it has a first, second, and third places for you to stand. And I know because I snuck back there one day, and one of the black belts was like, that's not for you, don't play behind there. Yes, sir. Anyway, I get changed, I walk back up the stairs, and I bow and enter the dojo, and it's rectangular in shape, and if I was to walk up to the far wall and turn around and look back where I came, so that I'm looking at the seating area, to my right shoulder is it looked to me a giant granite slab, like gray, slightly shiny, rectangular, and it had some sort of significance. And the pictures of I'm trying to remember where the pictures of the masters were, one of Funakoshi and one of Masatoshi Nakayama. Okay, but anyway, again, the room is rectangular, right? There's the entrance seating area, and there's the giant granite rock. Now, if I, during the testing that I saw, because the person you said you didn't know if he existed or not, if I was to sit with my back to the wall like I did, cross-legged, watching the testing panels here on the side of the granite rock, and the testing is more towards the side of the seating, and the wall to my back behind that wall is a road that accesses the rest of the world. But the wall facing me behind those windows are like a little creek. Okay, I was there, dude. I watched that testing. All right, I was there. I saw what I saw. I know who I know. Don't attack my integrity again. All right. Anyway. Now, what I'm going to describe is a class you taught that I was in. All right. So, I was about 11, 10 or 11, probably 11. And at that time, for some reason, they were like, okay, when you finish the kids class, Saturday I had an adults class, you take the adults class. There may have been reasons for that. Maybe it was sparsely attended. And maybe after the kids class, I was just running around, and they're like, it's easier to control this kid, make him take the second class. So I was told to take both classes. I know because when I got instructed to take the adult class, Mr. Watanabe, who sometimes taught the kids class, would be like, oh, don't forget to take my class. And I felt like I don't want to disappoint the guy. Let me name some of the black belts there, not just you. Ed Casimir, Danny Katz, Dennis Tawil, who I think also was a cop, but earlier in his life, another martial artist I know, Al Pontani, claims to have fought him and beat him pretty good. I know on they had pictures of the black belts and their names, and there was a guy named Abdul Malik Ali, which I just thought was, kind of interesting. And there was one guy there who was an older guy, a little heavy set. He had longer white hair, but it was kind of balding, a little bit. More than a little bit. And I think he was a Korean War or Japanese, World War II vet. He was an older guy, but he was pretty tough. Remember, there were two guys there who were adults, green belts. They were Italians, and they ran a pizza shop. They had taekwondo experience. Remember, there was a guy named Clifford who had a black belt in Tangsudo Murakwan, and I think had showed up at one of the Mid-Atlantic karate tournaments and was, got fairly far in the fighting, and then lost his later match or last match and said, I'm going to study this stuff. All right, so I was there. Okay. Anyway, what is this series about? It's about fixing an abusive instructor. Okay, this wrench, I got hit in the head with this wrench by that instructor, and I think I got hit this way in the top of the head for doing something wrong. But I was 11. My balls hadn't even dropped, right? If you're and this martial artist is a fantastically skilled, able martial artist. Closest thing to superhuman performance that I'd seen at that age. Granted, again, I was doing something wrong. I was doing something dumb. I was 11. If you were like a man with gray hair and have those physical capacities that person did, and you encounter resistance, verbal resistance or disobedience from an 11-year-old, and you have to whack them on the head with this thing, it was a whack. All right, something's wrong with you. You haven't figured out how to control certain impulses. Now, I'm going to talk about this instructor and other instances of lack of, what I would consider lack of self-control with their violent impulses. And remember, this person is incredibly capable of violence. There's martial artists that have said, at one point he got attacked by a few people when he was carrying around a lot of money and effed him up really bad. Ed Youngsa says, my uncle challenged him. His uncle was a boxer, and I don't know how the challenge went down. Did he just walk in and say, let's fight or let's spar, or did he join the club and say, I want to fight you? But he said, he broke his uncle's jaw on both sides, I think with 2 successive roundhouse kicks. if I was to say the name and you go on the internet, there's actually documentation from someone who trained in Philadelphia, because originally he was teaching in Philadelphia as part of a staff of Japanese instructors. There was like a brown belt in the class who was like, the kohai and trying to keep spirit, and he would like repeat what the instructor said. Like the instructor would say something like, "Yeah, do this," and he'd be like, "Do that," right? Apparently, this instructor, right? And I'm glad he didn't hit me this way, because this is actually an attempt at murder, and this is, believe it or not, against the law. It's assault with a deadly weapon. And if you're not doing it in self-defense, it's considered assault with a deadly weapon. If you attack a minor, it's considered assault with a deadly weapon on a minor. Right? Know the law. Apparently, that brown belt, the adult white male, repeated what this instructor was saying, and he turned around, kicked him in the jaw, and broke it, and had to leave the Philadelphia dojo. And that's probably why he wound up in the backwaters of Trenton. All right, this isn't me. This is someone else. If you're going to get mad and car bomb them or try to sue them, sue that person. Okay, I'm telling you about what I saw. One of my friends, Master Jose Gonzalez, said that when they were, him and his friend, the late Craig DeVries, were teenagers, they went to visit to watch this individual's school. They were young martial artists. They were cocky, and they're probably just talking too loud. And knowing Craig, he just has a loud voice. He projects. But they were minors. They weren't 18. And this instructor walked over and to the seating area and slapped Craig DeVries in his face hard. He said it was a big old slap, right? And at that point, they were just in shock, and they ran out of the school and never came back. Again, it's assault against a minor. Now, if you're an adult with gray hair and a storied pedigree and, great competitive record and all that, and you can't simply, somewhere between picking up a weapon or using your hand on a minor, there's things you can do. You can yell at someone. You can instruct one of your people who speaks maybe better English to say, you got to stop that and you got to leave. You got to shut up or leave. I've done that, right? I've never taken a weapon or put my hands on a minor while instructing like that. Now, mind you, I'm not saying contact in training isn't bad. As a matter of fact, up until about 2 months ago, when had been coaching at Zinni's for the past 2 years, I spar the kids, and I whack them in the body sometimes. I give them a light tap, or if they're like, over the age of like 9 or something, and they're starting to get a little more robust, I might a pop in the stomach a little bit. I might leg kick them a little bit, okay, just to train them, and I'll be like, okay, now you hit me, right? But all these incidences, by the way, except for the brown belt in Philadelphia, were after class or not during instruction, which means, they're not even you don't have that degree of authority over someone else's kids or someone else's body. It's a bad habit. Now, another incident, I know my brother said at one point he was goofing off after class or something, and the first sign that he learned that he was doing something wrong was that he got kicked like really hard, like knocked off his feet and back into a wall. Again, it's like 0 to 1,000 with this individual, right? So I'm decided to make this series about fixing a abusive instructor or an instructor that doesn't understand their boundaries and their place. And I'm going to use the Dojo Kun and Funakoshi's 20 precepts to explain how this could be done. And before any of you kind of get the idea that, well, you're here to condemn, what would you have this person do? Commit seppuku or something like that? No. I'm here to fix. All my life, I took up martial arts because I want to stop bullying. I want to stop being bullied like I was. and abused, and I want to stop other people from being bullied and abused. And you, as the instructor, are supposed to be the source of their liberation and salvation, not give them undue abuse. Like, training can be abusive. It's okay to make contact. That's what you're supposed to do. I also find it weird that a lot of the instructors that have this abusive practices don't use things like medicine balls and controlled contact drills, where you exchange leg kicks and things like that, like train the body to take abuse. They don't do a lot of forearm bashing and shin conditioning, and they don't use the heavy bag as much. They don't have gradations of sparring, working up to full contact sparring. It's kind of like zero or nothing. So I intend on fixing that. If you're the instructor or an instructor taught by this type of instructor, and you have these practices or you have these impulses, I'm not here to condemn you to seppuku or death or get out of the field. What I'm here to say is, if I could have my way, I would simply convince you of the wrongness of that and teach you better methods of how to handle your anger and your violent impulses and your hands. And then I would say, now your sentence is to take hyperbaric chamber therapy every day or every week or twice a week, so that you're going to live longer, and take a stem cell treatment so that you're going to live longer and be healthier, and now start another teaching career where now you teach this way. You still get to make contact, you still get to kick and punch and sweep and slam, but during controlled drills or during sparring, okay, in a logical way. You don't use this, okay? You don't use inappropriate use of force and instruction, because one of the dojo kun that Shotokan, for example, is famous for is, it says, seek perfection of character. That means don't break the law. Don't assault minors with deadly weapons. Don't hit other people's family members, especially if they're minors, right? Refrain from violent behavior, right? I'm going to explain these precepts and how they can be put into practice. And respect others. One way I can respect you is if you're being a total jerk, a total ass. I might say something like, don't do that. And then you do it again because you're a minor or you're an idiot. Most minors, most kids are idiots most of the time. That's part of the learning process, right? But if you hit someone to correct them with a weapon, and this hurts just doing that, right? I could cause a cut to my face with this, right? Folks, I can't believe I have to go uphill to explain to this person that would be bad, right? If you're that kind of person, once you correct yourself and develop a different philosophy, I want you to have another 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years of teaching where you correct that and transmit that and leave an even better legacy. Now, mind you, I'm going to conclude with couple things. First of all, when it comes to abusive students, there's verbal, there's physical, and that's what this is about, right? Maybe even mental. This is not about sexual abuse. I'm not making any allegation about that. If you are an instructor that has these impulses, or if you know one, it's a whole different story. If you're the instructor, get out of the field. Find something else to do. Find another job. Get corrective therapy. Do the right thing. If you know this person, report them, intervene. That's a whole different ball game. This is not what that's about. Okay. The other thing is, if you're Jordan Berg, Mr. Berg, the last name Berg is common in Germanic, Swedish, and Ashkenazi Jewish cultures. And so all of those say do not bear false witness. So do not accuse someone of bearing false witness either. Otherwise, you're upsetting your family traditions and God's. And I'm going to describe who you were back then, because I remember taking a class in which you were at least warming us up. And the physical description of the man based on what I saw on the portrait on the wall and who was teaching that class. If you're that Jordan Berg, you had a pale white face. You were not of darker complexion that I can tell. Well built, of average height, very strong shoulders, thick limbs, small waist, very, athletic person, dark curly hair, not straight hair, it was not like a gigantic afro or something. It was maybe a little bit more like mine before I had the gray, and a very fierce countenance. Your nose came to a point and tapered down. Some people call that a more hawkish nose or aquiline. You were clean shaven. And what I remember about the warm-up was, the class was me, an 11-year-old, I think 2 females who were black belts, and another younger female who was a green belt, and maybe another guy. They were all fairly novices. And normally we would, warm up with punches and horse stance. And this time there was more calisthenics and more jumping jacks, I think, and certainly the stance work. And then what I remember most about that workout was you started us with a set of push-ups on our knuckles, and we did those push-ups. And then you did another set of push-ups on the fingertips. And I'm like, wow, I've never done these before. I'm 11. My balls hadn't dropped. My body was just like, what the hell am I trying to do? And then you said wrist push-ups, which I was like, you can do that? And I remember one of the females going, he's got to be kidding, right? And then I also remember some type of squatting exercise, right? So, yeah. And from what I can tell, you were fairly well regarded in that school, one of the top fighter contender guys. And from what I can recall, you never hit me with a wrench during the class, or broke anyone's jaw for repeating something you said, right? You talked about, what do you want him to do? He's just taken us on a journey he's taken, and he's people that don't want it don't have to go. But part of your job as a leader is, if you're taking people on a journey you went on because you think it's a worthy journey, you teach them how to avoid the pitfalls and how to avoid the sand pits and the side journeys that can be harmful. So yes, training people harshly, push-ups, lots of kicks, hard sparring, that's good. That's a good part of the journey. I'm still on that journey. I'm 53 years old. My body ain't what it used to be, and I'm still pushing myself as hard as I can, right? But I never put my hands on nobody like that. And I never broke anyone's jaw. I've had people come into the kickboxing studio, into dojangs and dojos and kwans where I was assistant. I've been an assistant to multiple masters. I've got, teacher's ranks in multiple styles because I love the martial arts. I've had lots of wise asses walk in. I've had people come and try to start all kinds of trouble, right? And I managed to get them the heck out of there without disrupting the class. And I've come close. I got a temper. I've got flaws. I'll freely admit them. That's why I'm in the martial arts. I want to work on my flaws, right?